building these bundles, these packages, these mutual funds for people to invest their IRA dollars. Now you're giving the power back to the people.
Probably only 7% of our customers are doing more than half of all those referrals. Failing of that last business was that we were not good marketers. So we were we were not good marketers because I was a business person.
Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Marketing on Mars. Today, we got the CEO and board member of Rocket Dollar, Henry Yoshida, on the line today. He's calling out of Austin, Texas, correct?
That's correct, yeah. 80 degrees today in Austin, Texas.
Oh my God, I'm so jealous. It's so cold here. I'm in Korea and it's just freezing. It's like negative 8 degrees Celsius. It's cold. But So we're going to get into Rocket Dollar and everything about it, but very, very excited to get Henry on today. He worked. His background is in banking. He's worked at Merrill Lynch for over 10 years, and then he worked for a variety of different kind of finance firms for another 6-7 years, and then he started Rocket Dollar, which is essentially a platform that allows employees to keep the tax benefits of their IRA, but allow them to invest those hard-earned dollars into private and alternative investments. We're going to get into Rocket Dollar and everything about it. But first, welcome to the show, Henry.
Hey, thank you very much, Simon. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. First, tell us a little bit about you. Who is Henry? What was it like growing up? And tell us a little bit about your career as well.
Yeah, I'm. It's kind of funny. I'm one of those. I grew up in America, so I'm a natural-born Texan, United States citizen, first in my family, Japanese descent. And growing up here, I always kind of met two different types of Asian American kids, first-gen kids. One were the types that are the children of folks who never went to college. They just kind of ended up here in the country. That's my parents. And then as I've gone through
my
college,
parents as well.
And then as I've gone through business, I met all these other Asian American kids, first gen, but their parents came here to go to college and ended up working like a long time ago at places like Microsoft. So from an economic standpoint, they're very different than I was growing up. And I didn't meet those people until I got to places where they would also be, which was typically college or Merrill Lynch or Goldman Sachs or something like that.
Right.
So that's what got me into finance, essentially. I always kind of grew up thinking, hey, we're on sort of the upper part of lower middle class, no college education for the parents. And if I'm going to succeed in America, I got to learn how money works, how the rules are established here in the U.S. Since my parents didn't really know how to play, as a typical upwardly mobile society member in the U.S. So that's what actually got me into finance. And as you mentioned before, went to college. So you already talked about it. I right out of college, I spent 10 years at Merrill Lynch. Got acquired by Bank of America. So I ended up actually buying myself out, founding a management consulting company in finance.
Wow.
Then I got tired of doing the professional services and it wasn't challenging. So oddly enough, I actually threw myself, I tried to transition from becoming a business person to becoming a tech entrepreneur. And what I learned about being a tech entrepreneur, and this is the point of your show, is that you have to be pretty damn awesome at marketing yourself to get capital, marketing your idea to get capital. And then once you have that capital, you have to basically market yourself again to convince people to take lower paying jobs to work for a startup with no guaranteed future. And then once that product, if you even get past those three hurdles, you essentially then have to market the business, because my first startup was called Honest Dollar, and it was a consumer facing fintech business. And we actually failed into an acquisition by Goldman Sachs. So we could talk about that in the second part of the podcast. But, after I finished that, that's what kind of got me into thinking about new ideas and creating Rocket Dollar. And to be fair, I'm still probably a business person at heart who, has really slowly tried to transition into tech entrepreneur. And then maybe more so in the recent past, how do I really get a hold of marketing, both my business for capital and then business to acquire customers as well. So that's kind of the quick nutshell in me. So a big personal finance nerd, went from being an actual financial advisor at some pretty big name places, having my own successful shop doing that in consulting, and then turning that as well into essentially now what I have, which is my second B2C consumer fintech company here in the US.
So Honest Dollar got acquired. You worked on that for about 3 years. Was that your first company, or was you also you also started My Group, right?
Yeah,
Was that
so
your
what
first startup, or?
that wasn't really a startup, so it was interesting. This actually has ties, so this isn't why people are listening to your podcast, but the business that I had developed at Merrill Lynch for the first 8 years, so this is from the year 2000 to
Mm.
2008, um,
Okay.
was consulting for IRAs and corporate retirement plans for businesses. So I've always worked with IRA
Mm.
accounts, 401k accounts, tax advantaged retirement
Mm.
accounts, and I became an expert in those. In 2008, the credit crisis happened and Bank of America took over Merrill Lynch. And all of a
Mm.
sudden, the business group that I ran in the southern United States actually became a conflict of interest to Bank of America because we were advising
Mm.
companies on how to manage their money. And Bank of America was also managing the treasury money. The corporate bank accounts for the same companies. So legally, it became a conflict. So for 2 years, we actually had to devise a plan to spin us out. And that's what
Mm.
became my group or MY group essentially.
And you
So
grew it at one point. It was like $2.5 billion asset under management. That was the My Group
exactly, yeah. So
that
in
you kind of
finance,
grew it
we
up
left
to.
with probably about 250 million. So we were pretty small then, and then over the course of the next 4.5 years, we grew that. And in asset management, people always talk about how much you actually manage. So we grew that tenfold, a little over tenfold to $2.6 billion. But I don't. I think when people look back on it, they say, "Oh, wow, you were an entrepreneur. You left this big corporation and started this business." But in a way, the business was kind of started. I was forced to start
Mm.
this business, and we were paid to leave. So I don't
Mm.
know that that's the same type of risk that a true startup entrepreneur took. And I decided to dive headfirst into that. This is my second time around now with Rocket Dollar, because when I did sell my stake in my group, I did do like a true jump off the deep end and do a startup. Go from very cushy owning your own business that was kind of custom created, transitioning out of B of A and Merrill Lynch to having no salary and wondering if I could even raise capital or get anyone to work with me or for me at that point.
Well, you have raised money and you are managing a lot of money on your platform. We're going to get into all the dollars
Yeah.
and all the figures if they're shareable. But first, there's a tradition on the show where we take a shot of hot sauce, and I told you this last week. Might
Yeah.
might have come as a surprise, but I have something prepared for me today. What's your weapon of choice? What's your weapon of
Let's
choice
see.
today
So I
for?
got the more like a traditional American one. So I told you this offline, but I think it's amazing that I could get these like little unknown, maybe they only have one e-commerce like channel type things, which is effectively what my startup is today. And then what am I trying to
Uh-huh.
become? Well, I'm trying to become the incumbent, which in my industry for fintech is probably Fidelity, Charles Schwab,
Mm,
Vanguard, maybe Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch,
right.
and so forth. So I decided to go with the traditional incumbent type of hot sauce. So I don't know if your audience knows this, Cholula's.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Super
okay,
popular.
so but what
Yeah.
no one knows is that Cholula was actually owned by a private equity company, and it's licensed by Jose
Oh.
Cuervo
Oh,
Tequila.
wow.
Yeah, and the
Okay.
current parent owner is McCormick and Company, which is a Fortune 500 company. Which, in a year when the S&P 500 went down 18.4%, the Nasdaq closed 3 days ago because we're on January 3rd right now, recording
Yeah.
today at 30% down for the year. That a lot of people at places like Merrill Lynch, Goldman Sachs, Fidelity, Bank of America, and so forth will tell people to buy defensive stocks like McCormick and Company because McCormick
Mm.
and Company owns condiments like Cholula. They obviously are mostly known for pepper. They actually also bought another Austin-based a barbecue company for $100 million.
Oh my
The
God.
company had only been in business for 7 years. So anyway, that's the one I have. Cholula, owned
Okay.
by Fortune 500 McCormick and Company, because it's a defensive stock and it's probably pretty good dividend play for this year.
I'm sure a lot of people bought a lot of that during COVID as well, as I ate a lot at home. But
Either the
I
stock
got
or the
a
sauce.
a stock or the stock.
I know which
I got
one yours
a
is. Here.
spicy Korean. Have you seen this one before?
Well, I can't read it because I don't read Korean, but so I've
Yeah.
seen it.
But this is very popular. Yeah, this is super popular. It's like the thing in Korea right now. It's kind of all over the place. But
Is it bulgogi?
uh,
Like, is it,
Burdak, yeah, Burdak.
yeah.
It's I don't know. I guess it means like fire sauce, or I don't know,
Yep.
or I don't know. It literally means fire.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna start this off. I'm gonna pour
I
this.
don't
It's
even
super
have mine.
thick.
I don't even have a shot glass. I got to run
We
and
don't have a
get
shot
one.
glass.
Well, I didn't get one, but let's see. What do I have
Do you
here?
have a spoon or a cup?
I can go grab one. I
Sure.
could
Yeah.
just drink out of this. I got an individual one for me, so I have the family one in the thing.
Okay. You know what? I'll do this first, and then I'll shoot it out of the glass with you.
All
If
right.
let's see.
All right. Let's see.
Okay.
Yours is hot, by the way. I've had yours. You know, mine has to be
It
Main
gets
Street. Oh, it's kind of hot.
it gets hot after like the second, really hot after the second or third one.
Okay.
I didn't bring any water, which was a mistake. But okay,
Here.
so let's start the show off. I've given the audience kind of like the one liner on what Rocket Dollar is, but maybe you can explain a little bit deeper. What exactly is Rocket Dollar, and what problem are you guys trying to solve?
Yeah. In America, these are very U.S. centric accounts, but most people accumulate investment wealth in the U.S. In IRAs, 401ks over the years, and currently, and of course, this is maybe before the market declined last year, which I already alluded to. Those aggregate accounts in the U.S. hold over $30 trillion, and
Okay.
99% of all of that money is actually only invested in public stocks, bonds, and mutual funds like McCormick and Company, Tesla, General Electric,
Hmm.
Amazon, Netflix, and so forth. So, working with these accounts for 20 years, my thinking was that, hey, there's probably a really big market because now I know this private investment world that
Hmm.
if I can help people tap into money that they already have in the form of IRAs and 401ks to the tune of an aggregate total of $33 trillion, keep the
Hmm.
same awesome tax treatment, but allow them to make private and alt investments, which is a world that I got introduced to with my prior startup and now with Rocket Dollar in 2014 and 18, respectively, then there's a real opportunity to create a big business and allow people to invest in venture, crypto, real estate,
Hmm.
private equity, and so forth, using money that they already have that's locked up, essentially. So that's what our platform allows people to do. And simultaneously, alongside that, that's the problem that we're solving. And some people have done this for decades, but not a lot of
Hmm.
people know about it.
So this essentially was your career at Merrill Lynch, right? Helping people unlock their IRA dollars and invest it into investments, right?
Well, the funny thing was, my career was actually helping people. I was the one that established these, like, pretty regular plans that allowed individuals to go into like just regular mutual funds. So, in a
Hmm.
way, I spent 20 years, including my last startup, Honest Dollar, of almost really becoming an expert in what the normal, how do people do this, and I rode that to great success, both professionally, financially, and so
Hmm.
forth. So the flip side of that was that I think now if I sort of use those skills, I could actually come at it from a different angle. So what I'm doing now is actually totally different than what my career actually was about. But I just think it's the right time for people to tap into these investments and so forth.
Right.
And
So,
and the way I view it
I,
is I'm custom built from my background to be the person to do this.
right. So, kind of at Merrill Lynch, you were building these bundles, these packages, these mutual funds for people to invest their IRA dollars. Now you're giving the power back to the people so they can do their own. They can make their own investments and make their own choices, kind of like Robinhood, but for IRA dollars. Is that
Maybe,
fair?
yeah, in a sense, like I'm empowering the individuals. So instead of allowing these individuals to go into prepackaged products being offered by roughly the 10 largest financial services companies in the world, to then
Hmm.
say, hey, look, if I have money and I want to invest in Simon's business, or I want to invest in a rental property in the Midwest, or I want to,
Hmm.
uh, hold Bitcoin for the long haul. Right now it's obviously down from its ultimate high in November of 2021. Someone who's 20, 30 years old may say that, in a tax deferred account, this is a good place for me to bet for the next like 20, 30, 40 years. on an asset class, and these are not offered by traditional institutions. So it's funny. People say that I run an investment platform, but really I get paid by customers to help them get access to the money that they already have to do investments
Mm.
that they find on their own.
And was this not was this a very difficult process in the past with like the world before Rocket Dollar at other banks like Merrill Lynch and all these other, was it not that easy to take my IRA dollars and invest in other things? Was that the problem that
Well,
you guys were solving?
the incumbents were making so much money, right, with people like me working at these places that all the incumbents, these top 10 companies, actually don't allow people to
Yeah.
do that. They want them to go into
Mm,
traditional products because that's what's most profitable to them,
makes
in a
sense.
sense. So there was a separate industry that was always around, very analog, non-tech, non-brand, non-household name company that did this. And
Mm,
as I mentioned before, there's very sort of well off, very well informed people who were doing this to great success. So the two examples here, real quick, without getting off too much on a tangent, the way I learned about it was actually in the early 2010 timeframe when I found out that Peter Thiel, one of the original co-founders of PayPal, famous venture capitalist for Founders Fund, but also first institutional investor in Facebook. It turns out that he actually used these types of accounts in the early 2000s and late 90s to make investments in PayPal and Facebook, and was basically able to defer the taxes for decades and or eliminate them
wow.
altogether. And then in that same time frame, I found out that then presidential candidate, Republican presidential candidate against Barack Obama in the second term, Mitt Romney, was
Mm,
also using these accounts because a lot of people don't know, but Mitt Romney was one of the co-founders of Bain Capital. So he, if anything, he's a
right.
more
Right. Right.
sophisticated finance person than he probably is a politician, of which he's more known for now.
Yeah.
But
No.
these are two very savvy financial individuals, and they knew this, but they also had to take great, sort of care, and it was very difficult to do this. And my whole thinking was that if I can make something very difficult and very expensive that the ultra wealthy do and make it available to maybe like upper middle class and middle class folks, then there's a chance to make a great business and tap into a large, sort of blue ocean market and
Right.
so
And
forth.
like
So
you
yeah, it
said,
existed, but it's not known.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And like you said, you've kind of built your career around this area already. So before you started Rocket Dollar, was that kind of what was that kind of what was it? Did it make it easier for you as a founder because you already had a long career and maybe potential clients that were willing to join you in the very early beginnings, or was it difficult because you were with big companies and it was hard to work directly with the consumers?
Yeah, I was always probably someone who was maybe overly curious. So maybe I knew way back then that I spent 10 years at Merrill Lynch and it got acquired, right? So it effectively got taken over by a larger company called Bank of America. Um,
Yeah.
I think I knew that I was pretty good at sort of corporate bureaucracy, but I asked too many questions to like ultimately move to the highest ultimate echelon, up to upper echelons, if that makes sense.
Mm.
I mean, you look at these people that have been at companies for a very long time, like the Bob Igers at Disney, 40 years, Jamie Dimon,
Yeah.
like 35 years at JP Morgan.
Oh yeah.
Are these
Yeah.
are these two individuals, and I just happen to pick two males. So let's say Mary Barra at General Motors here in the US, also 35 years at GM. Lisa Su, Asian woman, lives in Austin, CEO of AMD, 30 years tenure.
Oh right.
Are
Right.
these people brilliant, all four of them, and rose through the ranks? Yes. But is there a certain sense of like conformity to why they were able to keep rising? I would
Yeah.
also say yes. And I guess I thought
Hmm.
that I was pretty good at the corporate bureaucracy, not so great in the conformity. Like I was probably someone who asked like too many questions. And at some point I would have hit a ceiling. And I recognized that in myself. That was kind of a little self awareness. But
Mm.
the main thing for me was that I don't think that I could have started Rocket Dollar or Honest Dollar unless I had a lot of experience like I had in the very traditional, boring parts of the retirement industry. Like that
Mm.
part shaped who I was. It helped me see like where things, little changes could be made, and maybe what I could do ultimately to provide the biggest impact, or maybe add the greatest value that I might be able to add to this world.
Right. And so just to give us a sense of where Rocket Dollar is right now, do you have any stats that you can share? I know you guys raised a little bit of money. Are you open to sharing how much you've raised to date? And also you have some customers already on the platform. Maybe you can share if you can share how many customers you have, or how much is
Sure.
currently under the platform.
Yeah, let me do that. I'm going to take a little shot of hot sauce here just to prepare myself. A little liquid bravery. How's that? You don't have to, because I know your stuff is fiery hot, because I've had it.
Oh man, it is. I think I
You're
did get
supposed to
some
eat yours with
water.
noodles or rice. That's the only time I've ever had it, is actually with something to tone it down.
You
So,
know, I think I'm
but
supposed to have food before this, but in Korea, I'm in Korea right now, so it's very early. It's like 5 a.m. I haven't eaten
oh, okay.
food. That
Hmm.
is the issue. Actually, while you're doing
Okay.
that, I'll take a quick bite of a chip.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, do that. But so we launched in 2018. So launched the product then, and we actually launched for very specific business reasons. This is probably something pretty good for your entrepreneurs to know. So I didn't know this in my first startup. I knew it in this one, but the company name is Rocket Dollar. RocketDollar.com is our domain name. So our
Yeah.
own US trademark attorney said that, hey, if you want to file a service mark protection as a placeholder to reserve the name so other people can't use it eventually, then
Mm.
you need to actually sell the product online to someone who's not your friend or your relative, and it needs to be sold
Mm.
online. So we threw up a version of the website in 2018, and then we got our first account. Like maybe a week or two later, we had no anyone looking at the site. It just happened. So then we could
Wow.
file with our attorney. So that was actually the point. So from that one customer, we've since grown, and we have a little about $850 million of customer assets on our platform, and that's represented by roughly 5,500 people. So we have customers, a U.S. centric
Wow.
product and service. So they're in all 50 states. They've come to us digitally, and obviously, I'm skipping a lot of the getting from point A to point B there. So 850 million in customer assets and 5,500 customers across the United States, all acquired through the website. But
Yeah.
we did that, and we had to raise money. So we raised a convertible note pre-seed round for $2 million, and then we did a seed round for 3.5 in 2019, and then we closed a Series A round for $8 million in late 2021. So right at the end of 2021. So it's an aggregate total of roughly $13 million, and
Mm.
that's how we operate now. So I guess if you look at typical startup, we're probably about halfway through, the use of this sort of Series A funding. So that's kind of how I measure ourselves right now. So that maybe that's the answer to all three of your questions, and my
Wow.
liquid bravery helped me get through that.
Yeah, it did. So let me ask you this. Uh, can you disclose any of the companies that invested in any of these rounds?
I think so. Yeah, I mean they're kind of okay with that. So our lead investor is not a traditional venture fund. It's actually a crossover hedge fund, is what they call it. So crossover means that they invest primarily as a hedge fund in public market securities, but in their case, mostly technology and internet, consumer internet businesses. But they also have a meaningful percentage of those assets under management that go into technology companies in the private world. So we're one of those
Mm.
investments. The group is called Park West Asset Management, and
Okay.
um, the founder of the firm is a Korean American individual whose last name happens to be Park, so that's why it's Park West. And then
Okay.
our other investors, the other main investors in the Series A, are a Tel Aviv-based fintech and insurtech fund called Moneta Venture Capital. So they're in some great, consumer fintech companies here in the U.S. We're proud to be in their portfolio. And then, thirdly, we have the venture arm for the crypto exchange Kraken is also an
Oh
investor.
wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So some of the investors are actually people that are in the space, that are active in this space, and they believed in what you guys were building out, and so they decided to kind of invest and follow on this journey of yours, the startup journey of yours.
Yes. Yeah. So they came on through the Series A. So there were obviously angel investors and people that supported us in the early days, personal contacts of mine in some cases,
Yeah.
people that I met in my last startup and through my career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's so cool. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the users. So you got 5,500 paid registered and funded users in the US. Mostly came in through the website. Talk to us in the early days. You mentioned that first person that signed up came very early on, 2 weeks in. Talk to us about that first, maybe 100 or 200. That was very bootstrapped with founders' money, right? Or like there was very little marketing dollars. But like, how did you get that first 100 customers? What were some of the marketing activities?
Right. And right now, I would say that still we're probably a little bit overly focused. We haven't really turned on, let's say, the large marketing budget. So the product itself
Mm.
is somewhat complex. So we're building infrastructure. We have a big product feature initiative that will launch here in 2023 that we're not quite ready to be able to talk about today. But at that point, once that's launched, then we'll be more one of those traditional companies that will be really using like that sort of what's the marketing dollar input on the one side of the machine, and then what is like the ROI output on the other side of that machine. And hopefully the
Mm.
number on going in on the left side is smaller than the number coming out on the right side, right? So I
Right,
think
right.
we saw in 2022 maybe there were a lot of startups that actually turned out that they put a dollar into the machine on the left side and only 72 cents came out, and that's
Yeah.
okay unless you actually scale up, because then that 28 cents starts to compound into a death spiral. So I need that number to be a dollar going in, $1.28 coming out on the other side. So we're fine tuning that for sure right now. But that first 100 for us, it was kind of interesting. It was no marketing. It was actually what we learned was that it was a cool investment opportunity that actually drove a meaningful percentage of our first 100 customers. So we had one
Oh,
customer who was an MBA from Wharton, the famous business school, Wharton.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and for those that don't know, Wharton is actually the business school for the University of Pennsylvania and is headquartered or based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
So what happened was that one of our early customers happened to be an MBA from Wharton, pretty typical, somewhat sophisticated finance person, six-figure income and savvy, and would have knowledge or insight and the opportunity to do private investments. Well, they were investing in a business, a restaurant and bar business that actually used to be by the campus. And the business wasn't doing well. This was in 2018. So actually got other former classmates of his to then go
Wow.
in and invest in this restaurant slash bar as a passive owner. So they could basically, because they got the bank loan cut off. So this is where they met. This is where they used to hang out after class. And they all went off to wherever Wharton MBAs go, which is, anywhere from becoming Warren Buffett to Donald Trump becoming president to
Hmm.
maybe more typically Goldman Sachs or
Yeah.
Fidelity or something like that as a Wharton
Yeah.
MBA. But, we had probably like 10 or 12 customers who all, we found out all knew each other from the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School of Business.
And
Um,
how did they find out about Rocket Dollar?
so they found out about it. People look for these capabilities. I mean, what I told you just really briefly a few minutes ago about Mitt Romney and Peter Thiel, it's actually the sort of like this. People think it's an old tale that may have happened, maybe didn't happen. That Peter Thiel invested $500,000 using an IRA into Facebook, which became worth $5 billion um, inside of an account where he won't have to pay taxes because it was a Roth IRA, essentially. Okay.
Right.
But the reality is that actually happened. And there's a subsegment of the
Mm.
population that, like me in 2010, started digging into it. And then probably from there ended up stumbling on a company with a pretty cool name, started by a guy who has a background in this space, me, and also had an input form to open an account and pay me $360 to sign up and so forth. And we're not
Wow.
the only provider. So I'm not one of these startup founders that says we are the only company
Only
that's
one. Yeah.
doing this. Because one, I think that if you're actually starting that kind of business, that's probably not a good idea. You kind of want to start
Yeah.
something, that someone else has already started and so forth, because it's a
Mm.
proven sort of model or problem or business that you could develop. And we're the same way. We're one of maybe a dozen or so that are in the space. But my goal is to be the best, the most cost effective, the most known, and the most tech enabled and so forth. But that early
Wow.
customer maybe found us through just some sort of like, maybe going down their own wormhole in a sense. And
Oh my
that's
goodness.
typically how early customers tend to find products. Like, I mean, think about your first friend that used something like Uber.
Yeah.
I mean, this would have been like in 2010. And like, that person probably thought the product was great, started telling their friends, And then years later, you realize that, that one friend of mine was actually about 2, 3 years earlier. My brother was that way for me for Zappos, Tony Hsieh's shoe company that went to Amazon.
Yep. 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 Yep.
My younger brother was like super early buying shoes there. And I remember him telling me how awesome he thought it was. Then I didn't think anything of it. And then feels like 4 years after that, maybe 5, everyone was buying shoes off of Zappos,
Everybody.
but he was the first. He found them. How he
Yeah.
did it, I don't know.
That's amazing. So what about now? Talk to us about the marketing activities now. Like what kind of marketing activities do you focus on? What's driving the, maybe name your top 3 or 5 channels right now.
So, okay. So top 3, let's go top 3, because that's probably easier. And the reason why is I still consider myself early, right? So I don't know if I could tell you that these are the 9 different ways that people come in to buy our product, like the folks at Apple could for their iPhones. But for us, the top one, and we did this by virtue of needing to save money and sort of conserve resources, was that we always thought the cheapest thing for us to do, and this is maybe something out of your playbook, Simon, was that the cheapest thing that we could do is actually create content. Like you said, like I mentioned, not a lot of people know about this capability. So we got to become respected, known, and credible for maybe telling people that, hey, that fairy tale that you've heard about the famous Peter Thiel making billions of dollars and not paying taxes for a Facebook early investment using an IRA is actually true. But okay, now that you know that's true, like how do the mechanics work? How do the rules work? So our team and I, we were actually charged. We actually had content creation goals within the company. So we each had to write articles that we either contributed to our own website's blog side, our own like webinar, our own YouTube channel, or actually our own like knowledge base, or more commonly known as FAQ, frequently asked questions. And today that started small and it's gotten bigger, and it's much bigger today. That probably is the single largest sort of source of people, because each of those pages are themselves indexed on the internet. So people, as they search for like, hey, how would I invest in a restaurant bar using an IRA account? Well, what I've actually heard is that as people start to go down their own wormholes for these things, our articles, our separate index blog posts and knowledge-based articles in our FAQ are actually coming up as search results. And then they realize it's tied to a business that can actually facilitate opening that account. So that's number 1 for us, probably about 50% of what we do. Number 2 is that we started developing, and we got going with one and decided it wasn't the one that we wanted to scale with. So we actually turned it off and reconnected to a different one. But your traditional affiliate marketing platforms, like your Impact Radius. So, we're pretty active. We're pretty generous on that particular platform. So we decided to overpay because it's a pay for performance, right? We're only paying if we actually get a converted customer. So, that's okay for me. And that'll tie in maybe to our CPAs and then informing our LTVs. And our product is designed to have a good LTV. So I could be flexible on the cost per acquisition. So number 2 is that affiliate channel. So that's generating about, 30% of our accounts. And then number 3 is actually having a very well-developed. So inside of our organization, we actually coordinate customer success and inbound sales within the same department. So they actually roll up to the same individuals. So customer success for us is a component of our sales organization. They're one and the same. They support each other. They get cross-trained on how to do each other's jobs, from both fulfillment or like answering front-end questions, buying questions, if people chat with us and so forth. So that's actually been another part of ours and what that's done is that's generated roughly, since we started, about 10% are customer referrals. So we, like all of your great tech companies like your Ubers, you get that, hey, here's Simon's custom code. So if you just magically happen to find someone who's never been an Uber customer now in 2023, then you could give them Simon Y2571 and they get $20 off of their first Uber ride, and you actually get $20 credit into your Uber account. So we do that right now. So we offer $50 credits for a referral, and then to the referring customer, they get a credit against their fees. So that's generated.
I think a lot of B2C SaaS plays, where a lot of companies go wrong, is they don't invest in this third bucket. And I'm so glad you talked about the customer success team. They think about PPC, they think about affiliate, they think about content, they think about influencers, but then they kind of, and they just keep jamming people on the top of funnel, not knowing that there's this hidden bucket of, if you treat your customers right, that one customer can lead to 10 customers.
Well, and
And
when you look at
sometimes
it
you
by
don't see
channel,
that, right?
they're by far the most profitable channel because you already have them as a customer and you're only paying $50.
Yeah.
So they're the best for sure. And it's a power law like anything else. So what we notice is that because we're tracking the custom codes, so it's probably very similar for Lyft, Uber, Airbnb, and every other great e-commerce or like tech company in the startup space that really scales. But um, probably only 7% of our customers are doing more than half of all those referrals. So if
Hmm.
10% of our entire base is referrals, not even 20, it's not an 80-20, it's like a 7% generate more than half of all of those referrals. Like they're the ones
Yeah.
that are always out there referring us. And they're
Yeah.
collecting like
Yeah.
$50 every time.
Yeah. And who are generally your best customers? Is there like a certain age or demographic? Like, did you do a lot of study into your top customers?
Well, we did, and I'm kind of aged out of this myself personally, but when 5 to 7 to 10 years ago, I really thought about this product being sort of designed for who I might have been 5, 7, 9, and 10 years ago, which is
Mm,
I was an investment expert. So I was, very trained in traditional investments, but I had a lot of friends that went to business school that were engineers at great colleges and they were starting businesses on their own or they were working in private equity or they got into like real estate development. Real estate is a hot
mm,
market here in Austin, Texas. It's grown. And, I always saw here was the issue. Okay. So when I was in my early 30s, I had a lot of friends that had a lot of opportunities that I could have invested in with them. But when you're in your early 30s in the US, you're in this transition period where you're still paying off your student loans and you're making good income, but you're also trying to enjoy life, but you have a big
right.
debt
Right.
repayment. So you don't have a lot of accumulated assets like you might when you're 45. Okay.
Right.
So the whole thinking for me was that, wow, I'm in a time in my life where my personal network has a lot of interesting private investment opportunities. And I have the knowledge to understand those opportunities, but what I don't have is the money. So the whole epiphany
Mm,
for me was that where's the one place where they might have money? Well, I was already leaving Merrill Lynch at this stage of my life. So I had 10 years of a
mm,
Fortune 500 corporate 401k with money inside. I'm in my early 30s. Do I need to put that into one mutual fund for the next like 35 years? And the answer is probably no. Like I could probably go into a
yeah.
couple of these real estate deals with a buddy of mine who went down that track and is just, beating the pants off of me from an income standpoint and sort of quality of life standpoint. I just didn't have
Mm,
the capital to go into any of those deals and so forth. So the best customers for us to, not to make a long answer to your very simple question, I would say are those like sort of 30 to 45-year-old people who
yeah.
are professionally oriented in their careers and they have accumulated monies in these accounts, yet they also have interest and opportunities to go into private investments. And they could afford to take 20, 30, 40, 50% of this traditional money that's accumulated in IRAs, 401ks in midway through their corporate or professional careers to do these investments for the hopes of higher return
Yeah.
and so forth. So our
Yeah.
best
No.
customers tend to be in that age range. We have them younger and we have them older. The older customers, ironically enough, actually have larger and more dollars in their account, but they're not as active in terms of the number of deals they're doing or their proclivity to refer other people to us as a 37-year-old or a 35-year-old would in a
Yeah.
sense. And
Exactly.
and so I'm lucky. I got a chance now in my second startup to develop a product for like that I wanted.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing that customer referrals make up such a huge percentage of your new customers as well. So that's very good. What about
Well,
like, do you
Simon, I
guys do
told you
anything
though
on paid?
that so we do so well the affiliate is very very paid, so that's the thing. But like in terms of like pure I think we do a lot of awareness creation, but it's competitive in our
Awareness
space.
creation?
So yeah, we do awareness creation because remember, we are a financial product, but we're a very niche financial product. So the problem with
Right.
finance is
Right.
that finance, maybe after liquor in the form of like beer in the United States, maybe car insurance, and then what else? Maybe like it's among like the top 3 or 4 brands that advertising dollars are spent on. Just to show you. I mean, big incumbent financial services companies will pay tens of millions of dollars to put their name on a
Huge.
stadium. Huge. I
Yeah.
mean, they're paying $100 million dollars for just 5-year contracts for naming rights to a stadium, and that's just to put their logo, not even to explain what their product or business is. So we
Yeah.
have to do enough to show that we are a financial platform with a slightly different twist. But we also know that we can't spend the money for true digital targeted marketing to try to educate someone from zero to buying an account with us through that medium. So what we try to do with our spend
Yeah.
is actually just to get them to our site to let them go down their own wormhole. If we can get them poking
I think
around on
that's
our
the right
website,
play.
that's best for us.
Because imagine you, I can. You guys probably tried some performance ads, right?
We've done a
I mean,
lot
I'm just
over since we started. So we tried, buying the AdWords for things like real estate IRA or crypto IRA,
yeah.
and it got too expensive for us to be able to
Oh
play that
yeah.
game. So
Like the CPC, like I can't even imagine that the cost per click was probably like just $20, $30 there, right?
yeah,
Just so you even
it
get the
was
click.
even when we started in 2018, we were looking at it. It was already in like the very like beginnings of like double digits, which for a startup is not doable for
And it's
us.
just a click. It's not even there's no performance. Like, with affiliate, at least you're paying, I don't know how much you're paying, 50, $60 for like an actual
Yeah.
you get an actual person signing up or an actual phone call or whatever. But where a
Well, so
click, you're
just
just
we
literally
started with
clicking
the
in.
50/60. So we were doing our sign up fee is $360. Okay, so we were doing 10 to 12 or 13%, and we would adjust that dial. But
Right.
we decided to go aggressive here in the fourth quarter of last year, and we'll do that in 2023. But we're actually going to dial that up to like 20 to 25 and 30% on that amount. So remember,
Wow.
so if you think about this, like 30% on 360, now you're starting to get into like 115, 120. So now
115. Yeah.
any influencer who's even looking at the affiliate platforms, they're going to see like all these brand name companies offering like, $1, $2, $5, and $7. And they're going to see this one on the right hand side, like, holy cow, 120. I'm signing up on their affiliate link. I got to learn
So
about this
has it
product.
So affiliate, what kind of affiliate sites have you been testing out with, and are you gonna be trying some new types of affiliates in the new year?
Well, so right now it's we're in the early stages, so we're transitioning the ones that were working with us in the past. So that's everything from like individual person, that might talk about real estate investing, private investments, maybe even like general traditional investments as well, up to like
Yeah.
the more traditional media outlets. So the Investopedias, the Bank Rates, the Motley Fools, and so forth. So those are like the upper tier ones, and if we can really get one of those going, and this is where I think our advantage is by putting ourselves out there as tech enabled, and we are a tech company. So more than 50% of our employees are engineering and product. We're not a large company, but that ratio of the overall. So we're built to build right now. We're built to like build, integrate, and sort of become a tech and software company. And if we could take the mantle in our specialized space of the most tech enabled and richly paying on the affiliate platform, in my mind, I think it's just a matter of waiting for maybe like the public market to catch up to the realization that,
Mm.
hey, if companies are going to stay private for much, much longer than they used to be, well, in 1990s and early 2000s, you could buy a small cap mutual fund. Small cap means that the market cap of the business was 1 billion to 5 billion. Well, now in
Hmm.
2023 and beyond, most companies don't even go public until they're worth like 10, 20, 30, $40 billion.
Oh
So
yeah.
you need to replace
Yeah.
small cap investing with something in the private world.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
there's going to naturally be a segment of the population that needs to continue to do small cap company investing, and they actually can't do it by just buying that fund from a mutual fund company anymore. They'll look for alternatives, and we're an offshoot of that alternative. But my job is to go find those people. But I look at keeping our sort of acquisition cost on a customer basis and really fine tuning those channels. And if I go back to the the digital marketing that we were talking about before, which maybe a lot of your listeners use, I
Hmm.
need to make sure that there's a really, really great house in the form of our website to present to those people if I'm trying to get them to draw there, right? Because if a click costs me $20, I got to make sure that what they see when they click is awesome or really
Yeah.
engaging or really differentiated and can really
Or
capture their
or
attention quickly.
or do more of what works for you guys, right? the affiliate stuff seems to work well. There's plenty of other, maybe there are a lot of other channels, different affiliates, different influencers that are worth giving a shot, and also content. I like there are different platforms where you can build content. I don't know if is there a different platform that you're going to be testing out, maybe podcasting in 2023?
So, we don't promote it too heavily, but we've been doing it as a test ground for us. But, I don't know if this is good or
Oh,
bad. We're not experts like you, Simon, but we have published 57 episodes of a podcast at Rocket Dollar.
oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Maybe we'll throw that into the show notes at the
Yeah.
bottom. What do you guys talk about? What's the theme of the podcast?
So we typically present our audience our email marketing list. So we have an email marketing list that is multiples in terms of our customer base. So our customer base is a
Okay.
subcomponent of that email marketing list. But that audience, what we present to them is actually different private investment opportunities. So a lot of digital investment
Mm,
platforms, or highlighting, let's say, someone who's been really successful in real estate investing, or something that might be related to that. So we even had a recent episode, great person. So used to be marketing manager at Apple, Bay Area based, great venture capital backers. And she actually runs an organization called Hemlane, which is a digital nationwide property management company. And we have hundreds of
mm.
people on our platform who've invested millions and millions of dollars into single family rental real estate. So, and they're
Wow.
doing it sometimes in different geographic regions from where they live. So they need a property manager on the ground. And Hemlane basically is a connection tool between like local property agents in, let's say, Atlanta, because that's where your rental property might be, but you might live in San Francisco, California, and you own this house sight unseen. So we do things that would benefit, let's say, the private or alternative investor, highlighting platforms and so forth.
Amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
So I think to boil it down, to summarize everything, you guys have hundreds of millions of dollars on your platform, raised $13 million, doing a bunch of content. Kind of thought leadership is a key piece. Podcasting is part of that. Affiliate marketing, customer success. You guys are doing a bunch of that. Um, before we end off, is there like what's coming up next for Rocket Dollar? I know you guys are planning to release some new product features. Any other big things that we should be looking out for Rocket Dollar?
Sure. I'll tell you what. How about if I answer that in two ways? So one is not directly related to your question, but Rocket Dollar, the entire business, okay, is actually, I designed this product based on what I knew before. The failing into an acquisition of my last startup, the past sort of working with these retirement accounts and understanding what the market currently is, where some new entrant can come into this space and really make a name for themselves. But the failing of that last business was that we were not good marketers. So we were not good marketers because I was a business person who happened to get into financial product creation and didn't and underestimated really what it took to become Robinhood or Acorns or SoFi, to be quite frank. And I have friends that were in the
Yeah,
early founding team or the founders of all three of those companies that I've known
yeah.
personally for many years. But the what I really looked at was that, okay, if I'm not this great viral marketer like Robinhood or Acorns, and I don't think I can scale up to like 1 million people on a wait list, what's another lever that I can pull to make sure I can survive in business? So what we actually thought about was that what is a financial product that has super long tenure of customer use? So very sticky product, because that's one component of LTV. And so for us, we actually looked at, okay, tax restricted accounts that you can't take money out of until you're 59 and a half without a massive tax penalty. Those are pretty sticky because it costs a lot of money
Oh
to get
yeah.
out of them. You can't fire the account. Um,
Yeah.
and then if you let people do private and alt investments, you end up getting a larger dollar customer. So as opposed to the average
Mm,
account of Chime, which is $25, the average customer at Acorns is $100. The average customer at Robinhood has about $173 in their account right now. Okay, so use those three. Our average customer has $100,000, so it's a higher value customer. So for us, long tenure, high customer value means that I have a lot more money to play with in marketing because I can't get 1 million people on a wait list, but I could go get 100,000 people over time and run a massively successful business. So Rocket Dollar was actually more of a culmination, not of this is a cool product idea, this is what we should do, but actually looking at what is a super sticky product with a great LTV. And it has a great LTV because it's sticky and the customers are of high value to me, high value generally because they have money, and then high value maybe to a potential acquirer because they tend to attract a pretty attractive 37-year-old demographic of 6-figure income earners who might have an MBA from Wharton Business School at the University of Pennsylvania. So that's that one. And then the big thing for me is that in business, my whole goal is to make that product better. So I charge this ongoing monthly fee after the sign up, and maybe like a Netflix model, which is that I want to keep giving them more and more content. And if the content that I license from other studios isn't starting to suffice, well, then I need to start creating original content and keep giving my customers more for the same amount of money on a monthly basis. Like I had to keep it fresh for them and new. So that big lift for us in 2023 is going to be to basically introduce the ability to do everything from private investments to public investments inside of the same account. And that is going back more to my own professional background. And again, I think our team is custom built to like create this. I don't think anyone else can do this. We can. Whether we'll do it, well, we probably won't be the first. We definitely won't be the last. But but we're definitely equipped from a skill standpoint, resources from our investors to get this done in 2023. So that's the big thing. The IRA account that could do it all. You can own Tesla, Netflix, a single family home investment property, some crypto, and maybe even invest in Simon's podcast.
Yeah, no, amazing. Look, I love it all. I think you guys are in a space where it's B2C, but it's kind of B2B because the people that you're talking to are really business centric. So with anything B2B, especially when people are investing hundreds of thousands of dollars, there's a lot of education that's involved. People are not just going to spend money on a platform, to that level without having quality content and actually having something where they can actually learn from. And I think your huge focus on content goes to show it really pays off. In B2B, it's all about content. It's not really B2B, it's P2P. It's person to person. It's another person that's making decisions. So I love your guys' focus on content. That's also one of the biggest reasons why I started my own podcast, even though my background is in B2B, because I believe in the human connection. And I think that's where 2023 is.
It's really outside of my comfort zone personally. So, I mean, for people that are listening to you guys, just so you know, it may not be your comfort zone. It's not my comfort zone.
Me neither.
Numbers guy.
Me neither. That's why I got these. That's why I got these hot sauce shots to give me some liquid courage to talk more to people like you that are doing amazing things, right? So, anyways, Henry, really appreciate you coming on. Excited for 2023 for you, and excited to maybe get you on to the show again later on this year to see where you guys are. Maybe like a quick update call.
Yeah, give us the year. We'll do like a quick update and let you know where we're at.
Yeah.
We'll cross $1 billion soon, and then maybe by the next time we'll be at 2.5 billion in assets.
Okay, and next time we'll do even hotter hot sauce. When I get back to Vancouver, I got more hot sauce for you.
Okay,
so
perfect. Yeah,
let's close it off with the last shot of hot sauce.
Yeah, you might have.
Do you ever come
a bowl of rice or something with that? Because that's how I've had that before with rice.
Yeah. Cheers.
But the irony that the hot sauce that we're taking shots of is owned by the company Jose Cuervo.
That's true. Maybe next time we got to switch over to Jose Cuervo, although that is like my biggest kryptonite. But anyways, thank you so much for jumping on, Henry. Really appreciate your time. Good luck with everything. Happy New Year, and we'll talk very soon.
Thank you very much, Simon.